Hello and welcome to the Faculty Open Forum session of the Presidential Search Listening Tour. On behalf of Chair Raymond Burse and the entire search committee, including the other facilitator here with me today, Aaron Rollins, and myself, David Schultz, we appreciate you taking time out of your day to chat with us about the President Search. This is an opportunity to ask questions and share with us what you want to see in the next leader of our university. The search committee will use feedback from these sessions to create a leadership statement job description for the presidency and to inform decisions made during the search process. If you are in person and would like to speak, simply raise your hand and then come up to the microphone so that those online will be able to hear you. If you are online, please raise your hand in Teams. Jake will unmute you so that you can then speak directly to us. You could also, if you're online on Teams, you could use the chat feature and then we'll read your comment aloud. We'll alternate between in-person and online comments and questions. To ensure as much participation as possible, we allow up to 5 to 7 minutes per topic. And with that, we'll begin. And I want to first turn it over to have our search firm, Whitkiefer, introduce themselves to you as well.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is John Thornburg. I'm a senior partner with Whitkiefer. We are a national executive recruiting firm that specializes in higher education leadership, and we are honored to be the partner of this university in your journey to get an exceptional president. I'm joined by my colleague Ryan Crawford, and we're here for a full 2 days of listening and learning and looking forward to your insights. Thank you.
Great. So our first question is, what is distinctive about the University of Louisville? What's distinctive regarding our mission, our history, our culture? What's distinctive about the University of Louisville? Let's not all jump up at once. Please.
And if you would introduce yourself to everyone, just so we know.
Sure. I am Ryan Luke. I'm a professor in the mathematics department. I think what sets us apart is that we have declared that we would like to be a diverse, anti-racist institution that is accepting of all demographics, and we embrace our LGBTQ plus community as well. But I want to say with that, in looking for our next president, on behalf of my students, it's not enough for us to say that. We have to continue to do things that show that instead of just stating it.
Thank you. What makes U of L special? Please come to the mic.
Hi, I'm Pam Beatty. I'm the chair of the Department of Comparative Humanities, and I've been here at U of L for more than 25 years, and I've seen the university change a lot over the past few years. And I think one of the things that makes at least A&S, which I know very well, very special is our willingness to be open and adapt and welcome, the diverse demographic that we were just talking about. And I think that U of L is in a really remarkable place in the city. We have a beautiful city that has all kinds of wonderful attractions. It should be very attractive for business, it's attractive for the arts. It's a place that people like to live. And I think that we have so many things that we can do in the university as a whole to take advantage of that position. We could develop so many ways of being in the city that capitalize on that urban relationship. We have amazing professors here, again, speaking for A&S that I know the best, people from top institutions from across the country and from around the world, people who have national reputations. And we could compete with any school in the state and many of our benchmark institutions. We would do very well there. And I think that maybe students don't always know that they can come here to U of L and get that quality of education across the board, that we have that to offer them. So I would really love for a president to think about that unique metropolitan opportunity. We have a lot of challenges when it comes to that, and I think that we would have to be innovative in meeting those demographic needs. We have some interesting, I think, challenges facing us. So I just think that makes U of L special. I think that the professors that I know are really, really excited and happy to meet the changing demographic of our community and to participate in a variety of ways in the community.
Thank you, Pam. We're asking what makes U of L special. What's distinct regarding our history, our culture, our mission? What makes U of L special?
Great. So I also want to emphasize that these questions are only meant to guide the discussion, that if you have other points that you want to bring up, please do feel free to also add some points. We'll move to our second question. Again, feel free to bring up other issues as you see fit. That is, what are the top 4 to 6 academic, strategic, operational, financial priorities that the next president should be expected to focus on, especially during their first 1 to 2 years? So this is what do we think is the most important parts of this job starting out? What do we want that person to tackle first? So think of that very broadly.
Again, Ryan Luke from the math department. I think one of the most important things for us is to think about how we're building partnerships in the community. The state is not going to support us, and we can't live on tuition alone. We have to have partnerships in the community. And in order to attract students as we approach this demographic 25 cliff that is being talked about, we need to be relevant. We need partners with businesses in the community and nationwide that want our students, want our graduates, and we need to provide them that pathway there. We also need to support them, and that can be done by creating all of these partnerships. So I think when we're looking for someone to be the figurehead of the university, we need someone that has a proven track record to build relationships with businesses, donors, and other people that know how to create things that are going to work for the university, the faculty, and our students.
Anyone online care to provide comments? Online, if you do have a question, please just use the raise hand function, then Jake will unmute you. We do have a question in the room. We'll go there first, but please online, if you have questions, just raise your hand, then we'll come to you next.
I'm Stanley D'Souza. I've been at this university for the last 16, 17 years. I'm from the other campus in the medical school. I just happen to be working at the library here. So my perspective is a little different. I'm a scientist researcher. And what I've noticed is, though we have adequate facilities within the campus and the institution, we don't have a real good infrastructure of equipment and resources to help young faculty guide their way up. And this is a terribly important issue, because in science and in research and getting extramural dollars from NIH or NSF, you need to be competitive. The present funding for NIH is barely about 12%. So you got to be competitive. And fortunately, I have been successful in the past years, many years, but that only requires, a good impetus from the institution. And, I've given an example before, the School of Medicine. If you bring in a physician, such as a radiologist, you just don't bring a radiologist, you got to have an MRI for him. Yet when you bring in scientists, you don't provide the infrastructure in terms of equipment and high quality. How are we going to succeed? So I think the precedent that we are going to recruit should have that priority in mind if we are to succeed in becoming the top institution in terms of funding dollars from extra. And that gives us a lot of forward impetus to become, in competition with top class universities within the country and abroad.
Can I ask you a follow-up question? Because what you said for the infrastructure, research infrastructure, could be taken two different ways. So that, are you meaning the individual startup packages to faculty, or are you meaning a core shared use facility?
Core shared use facilities, a strong core use. In fact, I don't, facilities in terms of recruitment dollars is critical, but that is more individual. You need to have a wider range, which many people around the campus can use it. And that, if it's efficiently managed, it can, support a wide range of candidates.
Thank you. I think there might be a written comment online, Jake.
So Trisha Gray says, increase and improve recruitment efforts to attract more elite academic students, first gen, diverse populations, and international students. Recruit with more emphasis on academic success, our quality faculty, and great opportunities in Louisville, like what Pam Beatty emphasized about what makes us distinctive.
Michael?
Excuse me, Michael Cunningham, psychologist and member of the Department of Communication. I've been here for 36 years. Two operational or administrative issues that strike me as important. One is a solid commitment to ethics in both the administration and athletics, and to a paneling of a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to document and remedy past deviations and rebuild trust and morale. We sweep things under the rug and we expect them to go away, but they never seem to do so. The second issue has to do with shared governance and budgeting, and that is to tell the truth about the U of L budget, including all of the subjective spending decisions that tie up money behind the scenes, the strategies used by development officials to sequester donations for pet projects that didn't originate with a donor, and the huge growth in administrators' salaries, rather than the big lie that U of L lacks the money to invest in faculty, staff, students, and research. We need to have much more shared governance on both of these topics as an operational orient.
Thank you.
We have anyone else on this topic? The main priorities? All right, we'll go to the next one. I think this is one we will appreciate. What career experiences do we want our next president to have? What career experiences are we looking for? Please.
Michael Cunningham again. I think that a career in higher education that was preceded by a strong liberal arts education with experience at the chair, dean, provost, and other levels of the administration would be highly appropriate and desirable in a future president.
have to start treating this like class, and I'm going to start calling on names to have people, especially the online. We have had little input from our online folks. But you have not been paid with a lunch either, so you get some grace there.
Can we upvote?
You can affirm what somebody else said as well. That is absolutely allowable. Okay.
Ann Beatty from ANS again. Sorry for talking so much, but I think that one thing I would really like to see in a president is somebody with vision. So some kind of prior experience of dealing with, kind of big issues or big problems. One of the things that I see at U of L is an issue with declining enrollment in ANS, for example. It's not because of our college or something that's unique to U of L. It's something that's an issue across the country. It's part of changing cultural values and ideals. And I think that if we didn't have an ANS, U of L would not thrive probably. So I would see that it would be important to have somebody who has experience in, having a vision, having some big ideas that can be followed through on, right? So again, going back to making statements about what we are, what our identity is, or what we hope to do, that's all very well and good. But then we have to have someone who's able to take those visions and kind of implement them in a way that is successful. So I feel like that's something we could use around here right now. And I would really welcome that from a future leader.
Online, Trisha again says good communication, clear, transparent messaging, and good listening skills.
So first of all, thank you all for doing this. I think it's really important. I'm Emma Starrett-Hong. I am an associate professor in the Kent School of Social Work and Family Science. And so I had some thoughts about the previous question, but they are related to this question as well. So I definitely think it's important that the next president have experience carrying out a research agenda or overseeing others carrying out rigorous research agendas. I completely agree that I think all aspects of our infrastructure with regard to research could be improved. So certainly physical space, but even knowledge. I think we have done a really nice job in terms of our Employee Success Center and improving our culture and with regard to staff members and leadership. But I think that also we could take that model and think about supporting our research personnel. So what are the sorts of information and training, and I'm talking about not at the dean level, but the actual support administrative staff in terms of pre-award support and I know that different units do, for example, pay for support staff to travel to the NIH to get trainings. But I think some of that information, if we had an internal infrastructure where this information was shared, that would be really useful. And then the second piece that I wanted to say is that I also think someone who has experience with both improving, creating inclusive environments and systems will also be really important. We all know that as a university that we have stated 2 years ago that we would like to be more anti-racist. And I think that in order for that to really happen, that we're going to have the sorts of investments of time and energy, financial resources to really make that happen.
So I want to expand a little bit on Aaron's question and include academic and leadership competencies. So what kind of academic or leadership competency, just not experience, but what kind of a leadership quality are we looking for?
My name is Geeta. Its full name is Gitanjali. Feel free to say that if you like, Gulati. And I'm at the counseling center, been there 7 years now, but I've been in the city 30 years, and because I came to university here. What I want to say is that I don't know the nitty-gritty of how a university grows and expands its influence, but I have seen in the last 30 years that when I came, University of Louisville was really not a big presence in this community at all. But now it feels more and more like the university has made Louisville a college town. You know, there's a college town feel where everything kind of builds around the university. So I can see how important it is for the university to expand initiatives into the community, like the one, the department leader said. So all of that to say, and then also now all the hospitals have come under the rubric of the university. All that to say that it feels more like University of Louisville has done a lot of good things so far, and that's inspiring. And the last leader we had was inspiring in that aspect. So what I'm looking for in the next leader, purely as sort of a frontline person, I'm part-time faculty, full-time staff. What I'm looking for is somebody that gives hope. We had hope with her. When she came on board, from the first day when she introduced herself, television cameras and all, she inspired hope for everybody because she spoke plainly about what she was going to do and what she was here for, and then did it. And so there was to me, an ideal president and an ideal administration is one that we don't even know is really there. In other words, the university should cause no controversy. We shouldn't make the Courier Journal. We shouldn't make the papers at all unless it is achievements. That's how we should be. Thank you. We should not show up at all. So that's what I'm looking for, where behind the scenes things are happening. The university is expanding its range of services and offerings and whatnot, but that we don't actually hear of any controversy. So that's number one. And I believe that giving hope and inspiring trust, that's the second thing I would love to see, which again, the previous leader did. And there were small moves and big moves that inspired trust. Like, for example, what I remember is early on, there was an auditing that happened, and an external audit firm came in and audited the foundation. To me, that was an extremely inspiring move. It gave hope. It gave hope that monies would be spent. I don't need to see the actual list of expenditure. What I need to see is that nothing shows up in the paper that says something was spent awry or in the wrong place. That's what I need to see, and that's what the students need. The students don't need to see the university in the papers, for negative stuff, because that takes away your ability to be proud of where you're working, where you're studying, and all that sort of stuff. So those two things, the trust and hope, to me, are critical pieces. I really don't have anything to say about what exact qualifications they should have. I honestly don't think that is as important as these other pieces. If they have shown the ability to do this in other settings, then maybe that's our person, whoever that is. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a comment in the chat online. Tricia, advocacy and negotiating skills as much for mediating between schools, colleges, and faculty across U of L as with trying to advance U of L on the state's agenda. We need more state funding, more state support and funding. Also with community partners and industries to grow mutual symbiotic benefits for research, job markets, investments, et cetera. And that is Tricia Gray, Chair of Political Science, been here for 20 years, over 20 years.
As a preference to my remarks about particular qualifications, I should say that as an organizational psychologist, I'm a strong believer in doing a job analysis first in a more systematic way than we are doing here. This is a start, but we could do it in a much more concrete fashion by giving a list of traits and asking people to rank them, and then testing the candidates to see to what extent they possess those traits. So that's his background. I would rank the traits sort of as follows. First of all, high intelligence expanded by a liberal arts education and leavened with empathy. Unshakable integrity and ethics tempered by flexibility. A democratic character structure committed to fairness but enhanced by charisma. Ambition for the institution based on the desire to do good rather than based on personal vanity or greed. I'm not referring to any past presidents necessarily, but you can think of those. A solid vision for the future centered on academic excellence, inclusiveness, and social justice, and resistance to temptation based on loyalty to the institution and to the leadership role. Those are the 6 primary traits that I rank as most important. But again, I recommend a job analysis, getting information from more people than are just in this room to fully represent the faculty opinion. And I think we could do it more systematically. That's best practice. Whit Kiefer, I supported you because you do testing, and so I'd like to see that go forward. Thanks so much.
Stanley D'Souza again from School of Medicine. I'm a professor there. In fact, I recently retired. So I don't want to repeat what's been said. I mean, those are extremely important issues they are brought. One item that hasn't been said before this, and I like to see our next president have a proven record somewhere. Again, from my perspective, if it's he or she is from the hard sciences, maybe chemistry, physics, or whatever, that he or she has got that on the CV. Good, high quality publications. That's number one. High quality external funding level, because that takes real challenges. One could have vision, but not actually deliver it. So I want to see deliverance from the next candidate.
Can I ask you again a follow-up? So when you talk about proven experience, can you further define that? Are you meaning kind of a ladder, somebody who's a provost, or are you meaning a lateral where they're a president proven somewhere else and then?
Yeah, but especially if they've come up through the ranks, not the administrative ranks, but professorial ranks, I would like to see their quality of publications. I feel Journal of Biological Chemistry is the benchmark, Journal of Cell Biology. There are lots of C-rated journals. You can pack them up. Next is National Science Foundation, National Institute of Heart funding, National Institute of Health funding. So at least you know that he or she has been through that and know what it takes to do that.
Sure. There you go.
So with seeing no other comments right now, we'll go to another prompt question. What interpersonal skills and personal qualities will best equip your president to work effectively within the culture of the University of Louisville and your region of Kentucky? So the interpersonal skills and personal qualities of the next president that you would like to see. I realize we probably have covered some of those already in the previous discussions. Michael?
Waiting for other people to talk, and if nobody will, I will jump in and simply say that I am looking for individuals who stand high on the interpersonal traits of extroversion, willingness to talk in a group of strangers, willingness to take charge, but without being dominant, and also agreeableness, a tendency to seek consensus, to get along with people, to enjoy people. The other big five qualities of openness to experience are often a good quality. Conscientiousness and emotional stability would also count as personality traits that I would like to see in a future president. Some of them are more important than others, but all of those are relatively important.
I'm assuming we have none. Right. So now we'll turn the page and we'll go to the selling points. What are the selling points of this university? What are the selling points of the University of Louisville that will compel the most attractive candidates to explore this opportunity? Why U of L? I'll nominate Pam. Pam, do you want to share? Please, please, please. Yes.
Now I feel a little bit like Michael Cunningham. So Pam Beatty, Humanities Department. I think U of L just has a lot of potential. I agree that it has become a presence in the community over the past 20 years. And I think we can go far. So I think that whoever comes to be the president here has a lot of great raw material to work with, if you want to say that. And I think that again, you know, despite that, we have some funding problems, and this is not only in the medical school. This is, you know, we need to compete in social sciences and humanities and need some support there. And despite the fact that we have that, I think that for the most part, we really care about the students. And again, maybe this is a more based on my experience in A&S, but we really, really want to provide students with a wonderful educational experience. I think that for the most part, every single professor in every classroom cares about the success of their students. We're willing to work really hard to ensure it. And if we have a president who can kind of share our vision about that, that president will be happy here. Lots of people who work hard, lots of support. If there's good, open, clear communication, I think good communication skills are probably paramount, at least for us in A&S. That really matters a lot, and transparency. So I think, you know, potential is here, and that makes U of L a great place. I think that we can be poised to go even farther if we can address some of the, you know, again, the surrounding cultural issues here.
Please.
Two thoughts, Michael Cunningham again, two thoughts about the attractive qualities of U of L. Since I've been here for 36 years, I keep thinking that we are on the verge of jumping off into the next level. We've been at that jumping off point for a while, and we keep shooting ourselves in the foot. I think if we get good leadership and they keep focused on moving us to the next level, in especially academics, that we can get there. We need to keep our vision focused, and we need to focus on building the morale and the trust of the faculty, the quality of our students, the supportiveness of our staff, and so on. But I think we can do it. We are well poised geographically and in the community to do that. And we just need to keep it together and keep focused and not waste our talent. The second thing that I would note is that we seem to pay rather well to a president. The last president was ranked 47th in terms of compensation amongst public university presidents. And last year she moved from 47th to 29th. So we do seem to be able to pay the toll necessary to buy someone who is nationally competitive. Now, we didn't pay as much, obviously, as Penn State, but still within the group that we are in, we certainly do quite well. So I think we can attract anybody who is willing to take on an interesting challenge.
Do you have any questions?
I was thinking about the points you all made about we must get a person who's taught an undergrad, became a tenured professor, became a dean, went on to be a provost, went on to be a vice president, maybe a president, et cetera. And I was thinking about some of the great leaders of our time who I suspect were excellent presidents, like President Eisenhower, who headed up Columbia, President Wilson, who headed up Princeton, Senator Boren, who took Oklahoma into a whole new phase of academic excellence. And I'm sure that, I'm sure that the new president of American University came out of the Obama administration as a cabinet secretary. So in a perfect world, to find that person who's had all the experiences that everybody has had would be great. And I'm not saying that's the top priority, but it just got me thinking about other folks who handled, I'd say President Eisenhower handled some big issues during World War II, and Wilson had been governor of New York, as I remember. I mean, there seems to be there could be others with different backgrounds that we should look at. But you all agree or disagree with that?
There have been many failures.
Adima.
I agree. Talent can come from many different directions. That's why I'm supportive of testing, because maybe we can get a better person who didn't come through the academic ranks. However, although there are many successes that you can point to, I can point to an equal number of failures of political hacks who've been put in charge of universities and done a terrible job and demoralized people. So success or apparent success in politics or in other areas of government or the military doesn't necessarily translate into the more complex world of academics. So I'm not opposed to it, but we need to be very careful about it, because knowledge of the publication process is not something that comes to somebody coming out of government or military, or the difficulty of getting funding. The military gets pretty much everything it wants. We can barely scrape by with our fingernails to get the gear that we need to do the work that we need to do. So people who understand the challenge, the scarcity, the rejection ratio of NIH and NSF and things like that, that's a commodity that may or may not be apparent in other sectors. I know guys in business who I respect immensely, but they've never had their budget rejected. So they just don't have the same understanding.
Gotcha. Sorry, I asked the question.
Please.
But actually, this relates to something I was thinking about in terms of the interpersonal traits, which is I do think someone who is very open to other perspectives, viewpoints, and who has the combination of being able to maintain a good working collegial relationship with people that have different ideas than them. And so that is something I feel like in general, in different sectors of our society, we're really struggling with. We don't know how to continue to get along with, care for people that we disagree with intellectually. And I think that there is so much innovation that is possible. And actually, that's already happening. And if we want to stay abreast of that, I think that we need a leader who is not going to feel threatened by different ideas and people who disagree, but who's really going to welcome that.
Hi, Pam Beatty again. Um, I think that your question is really an important one. And I think that maybe what you're hearing when you hear us talk about wanting somebody who has sort of that on the ground experience is that the the approach to a university as a corporate institution is something that makes us feel really threatened a lot of times because so much of what we do as university professors is not producing um, income, right? Like, or it's we're not generating money in a straightforward way. We're not producing in that same sense. And if you like even thinking about producing student credit hours, which is the way that our budget is working right now, there's so much that we do in our jobs that is not producing student credit hours. So every professor has an annual work plan here in the College of Arts and Sciences, and it's divided into 3 categories. We have our service to the university and the community and the profession. We have our service to the students in teaching, and then we have our research allocation, right? And it's only in the teaching part of our job that we're actually producing revenue for the university. And so I think that what you're hearing is that we need to have a president who understands that even though there are corporate aspects to a university, and so you do need the business mind and the strategies and so on, you also need someone who understands that what we're doing is something that can't necessarily be measured by revenue. Right? Like I can get some grants in the humanities. They're very modest compared to the medical school. But so even my research isn't going to be bringing revenue in that same way. And I think that's a really big challenge for all universities right now. Again, this is not something that's limited to U of L. But I think I just wanted to explain that I think that's where that's coming from. So I think what you're hearing is a little bit of unease about that corporate model and about the fact that higher education is not only about revenue, and that the payoff for what we do comes down the road in the city of Louisville, in the state of Kentucky, when we're producing citizens who are informed, who can think critically, who can evaluate situations, and who can, get a wide variety of jobs, not necessarily tied specifically to their major that they had when they were an undergraduate. So if you take that into consideration, maybe what we can look for is somebody who at least has an understanding, right, of the disjuncture between that corporate model of administering an obviously very complex institution that has business aspects to it, financial aspects to it, but also is doing something else for society as a whole at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much so. Thank you.
We have a little more time. Is there anything else you all would like to share with the firm, with the other members of the committee? Sure.
Again, it's me, Stanley D'Souza. So one of the points that has not been brought up is we need to look at why did the past president, who was so highly regarded as someone, left the place. So that's important. So if there is some exit interview for Dr. Benapudi, we could look into it. What attracted her to leave our university in such a short tenure that she was here?
I think Mary Nixon, if anyone here, or Raymond Burse would be able to maybe address that. If we didn't have exit interview as far as I know, but okay. Right.
Where I came from, I have to admit. But I think,
Do you mind speaking in the
Oh, yeah,
camera
yeah.
or have the mic, like, just so they can hear you as well?
Sure. I mean, the only person that really knows is Dr. Bendapudi. But I know, in my discussions with her, and she and I became pretty close, working together for what wasn't long enough, but was long enough to get to know each other. She's had a great career. She loves being successful. That's important to her. And as her star rose here and she started getting national attention, and an institution that, as much as we love the University of Louisville, Penn State is at a different level than we are. And I think it was just one of those opportunities you just couldn't refuse. I think, the question I asked myself in terms of, was there anything we could have thought about, should have done to keep her, if you sat down with her and said, well, why wouldn't you go? It was mostly relationships and people she'd gotten to know here in the community she'd built. But from a career perspective, it was pretty much a no-brainer, I'm afraid. And that's kind of my assessment of it. Raymond, you have anything you want to add?
I think that's.
Do you mind introducing yourself so they'll know?
Oh, I'm Mary Nixon. I'm chair of the Board of Trustees.
Okay, I'm Raymond Burse. I'm vice chair of the Board of Trustees and chair of the search committee. I think at the end of the day, when you look at where this institution is in terms of its development, and you look at where Penn State is today, the ability to move up in institutions was a major draw for her in terms of her decision. For those of you faculty members in this community, you understand probably better than most the status of institutions and where things happen. And so when you get that attractive offer, people jump at those opportunities. And so I think she saw it as a career progression in terms of where she is. Let me say from the Board of Trustees that we spent quite a few months last year looking specifically at what we could do as a board and institution to at least place ourselves in a position, because we knew somebody was coming. And we did some things. I won't say we didn't do enough. I just say that she had a better opportunity.
Okay, so this time I have a question, actually more than a comment. And one thing that I wonder, we were talking about some of the challenges that our new president's going to face. And we're in Kentucky where we do not have a legislature that is always giving a great amount of money to U of L. And I just wonder also if that's maybe an impediment, or if that, right, for attracting somebody to come where maybe it's going to be a bit more of an uphill climb. I don't know if I should say that or not, but I just feel like that's a reality, right, that we have to deal with in Kentucky is somehow we have to get some more support for higher education, not just at U of L, but across the board. And that might be something that we will need to address when we're interviewing candidates and thinking about who we could attract here. But I would have gone to Penn State too.
So I don't really have a response to that. I agree with that. But I think if you look across all 50 states, the majority of them, I believe even John might have, even Pennsylvania has drastically over the past 10, 20, 30 years, drastically cut their support for the state schools. So I don't think we're unique in that. And if you look at every state, you tend to have, the flagship and then the stepsister to the flagship. Michigan State, Michigan, University of Pittsburgh, Penn State, they're all kind of have that similar dynamics.
Yes, and I 100% agree with that. But I do think that when people from the outside look at Kentucky, I'm not saying necessarily so much about the exact reality, but from the outside. But I do also want to say something about that too. And I think that we have a lot of opportunities in the state where we can collaborate across institutions that we end up competing with each other instead of working together. And that might be a place also where a new university president could lead us and forge some new kind of cooperative programmatic relationships and so on. Like we have some of them in terms of transfer credits and all of that, but there are ways I think also that we could share some resources if resources are really slim and so on. So that would be an opportunity and again, some more potential that a president could look at.
Well, that's part of what I'm going to do. So first, I want to, like everybody that has chosen to speak so far, I am very heartened by your glass half full attitude. So thank you. I also would like for John to sort of address that question, because I think as we were talking to the search firms, one of the things that resonated with me with Whit Kiefer was not only the fact that they will be helping us evaluate candidates, but they will be recruiting candidates. And because of the work that this is what they do for a living, they know and have a sense of what are the things that our candidates are going to be looking at and evaluating whether this is the right opportunity for them. And, you know, they mentioned things about, you know, have you done a capital campaign? Might you be doing a capital campaign? You know, how does your, you know, your advancement track record, state funding, all those things. So John, would you sort of help with that?
Certainly. Again, John Thornburg from Whit Kiefer. Thank you, Chair Nixon. On the immediate question about the potential impact of softer state investment in higher education, I can reassure you that that's happening across the country. And at the same time, though, you need to continue through your president and leadership team to convey to the state that their investment will be returned, even though it's only 10% of your budget, which ironically gives you less exposure than other universities who have 20 or 30% of their funds coming from the state. It's still your single largest recurring donor of $130 million a year. So you want to appreciate the state, but public higher education is not a priority in, I would say, 75% of the states across the country, and that's an unfortunate reality. So this will not be a recruiting impediment, but on the positive side, our goal is to really distill a compelling list of attributes that this university can offer and reach out proactively to people who aren't thinking about being your president and excite them over time about their opportunity to make an impact. And at first glance, and we're developing this through the next half and day and a half, there are some messages that we want to make sure candidates hear. The first is you have a good momentum that you've built up, even though it was disappointing to lose a president. It doesn't take away with what you've accomplished. You have, through your Health Sciences Center, you have built partnerships and made a very firm commitment to the health center. You also have a stable financial platform. And in this day and age, there are more and more universities who are recruiting presidents to do a turnaround, a fiscal turnaround. And that's not the case here. You can't take your eye off the financial ball, but at the same time, it's a strong platform comparatively. You have a very robust mix of academic programs, both in health sciences and also in the core academic units. And the diversity of both undergraduate, graduate, and professional programs is appealing to someone who wants to really intellectually grow. You have a wonderful community that's committed to this university being the cornerstone of Louisville. And you're the biggest game in town, and that's exciting. Certainly the prominence of athletics is a part of your tradition. That's an area that is not for the faint of heart for any president, but at the same time, it can be leveraged to grow the prominence and reputation of the university. So I could go on, and our role is to fully develop that list of selling points so that we can whisper in people's ears to get them excited. But I'd say the balance sheet shows a lot more assets than liabilities, but it's a competitive market. We wouldn't exist if it was just as easy as putting an ad up and opening the proverbial mail, but we're looking forward to getting this message out. And I'd be glad to answer any specific questions about our process or anything that was prompted by what I just shared. Yes, sir.
Michael.
How are you going to find our next? I didn't understand.
Well, this is a person-to-person interaction. We will target people who we know, whose experiences, whose settings prepare them for this role, who understand the complexities of working in a national research university, and we will reach out and begin conversations. Ryan, myself, our colleagues will plant the seed. This is not something that, as I said, you just put an ad up and wait and see what the response is. The recruiting process takes time because the best candidates want to reflect on this, want to ask for information, want to fully understand what they're stepping up to, really get a sense of where they can add value and make a difference. So we have, having worked in this field for 45 years, our firm, not me, but we have wonderful protocols and practices that combines both art and science. But in the end, it boils down to conveying a compelling message, accentuating the positives, and at least neutralizing any perceived negatives.
So this is a comment from Ann Larson. U of L's commitment to the community and transformative efforts related to community needs and opportunities is a hallmark of the institution. The Carnegie classification earned is years and years in the making, and faculty, staff, and students are committed to partners and constituency groups across all disciplines. That energy and effort are a core fiber of U of L's fabric, and faculty and others contribute to quality of life and success through community engagement to eradicate and close equity and opportunity gaps, including in areas of health and education. And rewards and recognitions for the work are becoming more evident and valued on this area. I hope the next president will truly value the community engagement pillar of the institution, and they will have professional experience and a record that showcases this capacity and a set of core values. At U of L, community engagement connects to teaching, research, service, and DEI in essential ways and connects to higher ed reform areas of workplace and work-based learning. Again, Ann Larson, College of Education, 26 years at U of L.
All right. That concludes us. We want to thank you all for attending our listening session. On behalf of the search chair, the board, our partnering firm, thank you all. I want to share with you all a website to provide any additional feedback. It's uofl.me/PSC, P as in Paul, S as in Scott, C as in cat, -feedback. uofl.me/PSC-feedback. Thank you all and have a nice day.